Hey, well, happy Father's Day weekend. We wanted to take a moment and just talk to some dads about things they've learned from their dad, things they're trying to pass on to their kids, and also some of their great dad jokes. And so I'm joined here with John, Joaquin, Mark, and Brad, and they're going to walk us through being a dad. Well, guys, thank you for joining us on this Father's Day weekend. You guys are all dads, so we got a lot of kids represented up here. I only bring 2 to the mix, but you've got
5.
5.
3,
4. And 6.
Wow. I can't even do the math on that. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. But you have the youngest, 14 months old?
14 months old.
Okay, and which of you guys has the oldest?
I got one that's about to be 25.
25.
Oh, actually, no, mine is 27. That's
27.
28.
28.
Right. One, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, good job.
And then your oldest?
21.
21, okay. So all the different ranges here. So Father's Day weekend, we thought we'd kick it off with your best dad joke that you have.
I got one. Have you heard about the chocolate record player?
No.
Sounds really sweet. Sorry.
That's good.
That is good. That was good.
Okay.
All right, I got one. And I want to preface this by saying dad jokes are dad jokes because it doesn't matter if anybody else thinks they're funny or not.
Right,
We say them for us.
That's right.
right.
So-
We enjoy them.
Yeah, we enjoy it. That's the sole purpose. What starts with a W and ends with a T?
What?
It's good.
Yes, I got it. I never get it.
Wow.
My wife always gives me a hard time because I laugh harder at my jokes than anybody else
Yes.
in the room.
I think that's
I think
part
that's
of being
another
a
definition
dad.
of a dad
Yeah,
joke.
yeah.
Everything is taken from you, so you have to find your own little corner of life where you're entertained.
Yeah.
And that's with your own humor.
That's
Yeah,
kind of, I
absolutely.
don't have a dad joke, but I've been told, oh, that's a dad joke. So,
So then you have
It's just
some.
your normal conversation.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It wasn't even meant to be a joke, and I still get laughed at and called a dad joke.
This is the one that I found, and I actually did have to Google a few, but this was pretty good. It's, and I have to take my glasses off to read up close. I don't trust stairs. They're always up to something. A guy walked into a bar and lost a limbo contest. Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana.
Yeah.
Come on, that's pretty
good.
solid.
That's good.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
solid.
yeah,
Okay.
Dad jokes.
I'm going to
Okay.
steal all those.
Okay. Well, this weekend we're talking about the Michael Jordan documentary called The Last Dance, about the last season of the Bulls. And I think all of us would agree that Michael Jordan is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. But I would say not the greatest, because that would be
Magic.
Magic Johnson.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Hands down.
Yeah. You would probably say Steph Curry.
Steph Curry.
Come on, he's only played like 5 years. So
That's all you need.
that's all you need. Okay, so the interesting thing about Jordan is he has a really tight relationship with his parents, especially his dad. And when his dad died tragically, it was devastating for him, obviously. Tell me about your relationship with your dad, and we won't turn this into Oprah or Barbara Walters. Not that any of our viewers would know who that is, but what'd you learn from your dad that you're trying to pass on? Or maybe not even that, just something you think, I'll never forget this about my dad, whether he's alive or passed on.
One thing my dad always said to me is, do what I say, not what I do. It's not
okay.
what I say to my kids, but that's one thing that stands out that he always said.
Yeah.
Yeah, my father had a saying where you would say, if I pass away, you need to take care of your mother. Love your mother more than you love me.
Was that heavy for you?
I just accepted it because he said it quite a bit.
Okay. Did that day ever come?
Yeah, it did. So I brought my mother in. She had Alzheimer's, and she lived with us until she couldn't any longer. So, but that just permeated through my life.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be a lot.
I guess, his sayings necessarily weren't what I remember. I would drop something as a kid and go, throw that down there. So, that was, for some reason, I do that to my kids because, it's like, I don't know.
That's good.
Yeah, but it was more that when I turned 24, 25, I started realizing the wisdom that my dad has.
Yeah.
And every year I grew older, he would get smarter. So like when I was 16, he was like, oh, whatever, you don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking about. But when I became an adult and things in life would be challenging, or I would face, I don't know, a trial of some kind, and either wisdom just from being around him my whole life, or something he would say then, at that present time, would show me that, wow, he's really got a lot of wisdom that I want to soak up. And every year it felt like I got dumber and he got smarter. It was like, okay, all right, I wasn't all that I thought I was when I was younger. He has a lot to share, still does, and I hope that my kids one day will do the same thing. When they get in their 20s, they're like, oh yeah, okay, he's.
We're all waiting for that day.
Yes, right.
You'll think I'm smart one day.
But yeah, I think it was just a combination of all the things he would speak into my life.
Right. That's good. Brad?
We didn't have a great relationship, my father and I. But one thing that I do, I reflect on, is that when you're a father, you and your children are literally growing up together. When you get married and have kids, you're growing up together. You're watching one another grow up, and it's a parent has an opportunity to look at that child and to give that child grace. And as time goes on, like grace to make mistakes and do different things, grace to fail, grace to say dumb stuff, grace to do all the stuff that kids do. And if you do that, when you become an older parent, now your children can return that grace because they see your imperfections. They see the mistakes that you make. They see that, the hypocrisy sometimes. And it's like we rely on one another's grace. So even though I don't have anything that I can think of that sticks out, that grace that he showed, that grace that I am able to receive from my children, I want to give that to my dad, and not speak negatively.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Even those of us that have had really difficult relationships with our dad, we have an idea of what it should have been, and we have an idea of when grace is given to us, how we can give that over. I remember having this kind of moment where I thought, my dad wasn't a perfect dad, but he was as good as he could have been.
Yeah.
With the limitations that he had, because he never knew his dad.
Yeah.
And I think that became freeing for me, and I think that was freeing for him as well, just to realize, okay, I did what I could, you know. Yeah. When it comes to you being a dad, let's start with this. What's something you have said to your kids that you, as a kid, said, I will never say that to my kids? I mean, for me, it's because I said so. I always thought that was such a weak answer. Why do I have to do this? Because I said so. Well, give me an actual reason. And now that I'm that age, I think, I don't know the reason. I just know that's not a good idea. So don't do it.
I'm one different. It's a little different. My dad used to go, I want to get something. And he goes, cannot, we're broke. We're broke. And I don't know if that was true or not, but I thought I would never say it to my kids. But, a few occasions, we're at Target and I go, can't, we're broke. Maybe I was lying. I don't know.
But I mean, how do you argue with that? They don't know.
They don't.
They're not in your bank account. Can't do it.
I like to give my kids an analogy or two. I'll throw that out so I'm not saying just because I said so.
Yeah.
Give an analogy or two. If they still don't agree with it, well, the line's drawn. You don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. Maybe you don't understand it.
Right.
But that's the way it is.
Right. My dad had a saying that I hated as a kid. And I think I actually did talk to a counselor about it because it made me such a perfectionist. And that is, if you do it right the first time, you won't have to do it again. And my sister and I both talked to a therapist about that. And what's funny is my wife and I joke about this all the time. One of the things we're saying to our kids now that they're going to end up telling a therapist later on, because I think we all do that kind of damage. But I appreciate the intent behind that because it did make me give things another pass, to do things another time, to make it a little bit better than it was the first time, as opposed to just phoning it in. So there was some wisdom in that. And I don't know why, of all the phrases he said, and he had some corny ones before we even knew what dad jokes were, can I do that? Does a chicken have lips? I don't think so. We don't have chickens. But, yeah.
Yeah, to this day, I'm still trying to figure out where Kingdom Come is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Place. I don't know what that is.
It's talked about a lot.
My dad was, ex-military, so showing emotion like men don't cry, that kind of thing. He would say things like that constantly to me, and I, couldn't believe it. But in retrospect, looking at me and my parenting, there are times when I expect my kids to, just tough it out, just tough it out. And they have taught me a lot about the reality of that statement. Like in time, I think our children now are more vocal than we were. Like the whole do as I say, not as I do, or because I said so. We didn't challenge that because we didn't want to catch one. That's why you were mad, but you just kept your mouth shut. That's right. But now our kids, they're like, that doesn't make any sense. Or later on, they'll question certain things, and I realized that I was doing that, but I think that my kids helped me to understand that, it is okay to express emotions. It's okay to feel. It's okay to, and we're all working through that still, but. The reality of it is that was a phrase that I grew up with, or a thought process I grew up with, and I can see how that was wrong.
Yeah. One of the things in the movie with the Michael Jordan series, you see how his obsession with the game of basketball really kind of did some damage to his own family as well. How do you think, we're not all NBA stars, so we don't know that life, but we can get obsessive about other things as well. How do you as a father try not to let work or a hobby or something else take you so far into an obsession you forget about your family? Any safety checks you have in mind that you try to make sure you're doing just to keep yourself balanced?
Yeah, it's called the wife.
That's true.
That's a good
I'm
answer.
just being
Great
real.
equalizer, yeah.
Very honest answer.
Yeah, there's your barometer.
Uh-huh.
My wife has a certain look, and I've only seen a handful of times in the times we've been married, and that's the look that I'm either acting out of my own will and not God's, or I'm about to say something or anything like that, and I'll glance over. Now, my last name is Colburn. If she says Colburn in a distance, I need to cut it. She's a very wise woman. I've reached a point, 5 kids, teenage kids, 21-year-old, I'm going to get to those moments. So I really trust my wife in that. So, yeah.
Do you get a recap afterwards, after the situation?
You know what?
And you recap
I'm all
it?
about communicating. That's another thing. Like, there wasn't a lot of communication growing up in my house. So we're going to revisit this.
Or would that be a sports highlight? Since we're talking about Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Yeah.
You get a recap later on?
I'm not saying, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, for a friend.
And I think it's important to revisit every situation you can, especially if it got heated, because we're dads, right?
Yeah.
Our kids are going to take a few things from us, and the things that I want my kids to take from me, is the communication with their own kids.
Yeah.
That's really important. I didn't have a lot of that growing up, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I work, as dads, we provide.
Yeah.
And we feel like, there's so much truth in the fact that we don't know what we're doing. Like, we didn't know what we were doing when this thing got started. I remember just something clicking one day, and I said to myself, it's like the world gets the best of me and my family gets the rest of me.
Yeah.
And I kind of used that quote in my head, and I said, I don't want that to be the reality anymore. I don't want the world and people who I don't know to get the best of who I am at work and at different places in the community, and my family just gets what's next, So that helped me. And then to your point about the wives, when you do have a spouse and you are usually on one accord, when you're off, that's a great indicator that, something is just not right. And you have to, they don't teach us about self-awareness. They don't teach us about our behaviors that are unhealthy, our hurts, habits, and hang-ups, we don't get taught, prior to going into marriage. And so, your wife really is your barometer, the word of God, and he gives you her to help keep you in check, because you have to question when things are off. Okay, what does this situation require of me? Or what could I have done better in this situation? And you learn to start asking yourself questions like that as a dad, you know, and that's what helps you give your family the best.
That's
of
good. Yeah.
And the way it comes from us sometimes is we just want to fix things too quickly.
Yeah.
Like I truly do use my wife as a barometer and like spiritually every way, and we do have great open communication lines, and we work really hard to keep them that way. But I do tend to, when confronted with any issue, whether it's with her or with the kid, it's like I want to fix it.
Yeah.
You know, I want to fix it fast, and I'm logical, and I'll just try to go there with it. And she's like, you need to slow down
Yeah.
because I need you to try to understand what's happening first. Then we can get to fixing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned in my marriage that sometimes when my wife or my daughters need something, what they need from me is to close my mouth, open up my ears, sit there, and communicate with my eyes.
Yeah.
But prior to that, that's what I fell into. I'm here to fix it.
Yeah.
And that's the furthest thing they need from me.
Yeah. Well, and it's selfish too on our behalf. You know, I realized that after when you deal with work and the world and people and you have all this stuff that you have to deal with outside the home, and then you come home and there's an issue, you're like, I can't believe it. Like, there's no way this is supposed to be my place of peace.
Yeah.
And there's an issue. Like, I don't have the capacity. I don't have the bandwidth.
Well, it's a
to
big
handle
gear
it.
shift because you're at work and you're being paid to fix it,
Right,
to
right.
do it, and you get home and it's like, no,
Yeah.
no, it doesn't fly here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you want to fix it too because you don't want any drama, you know, in the house. You know, you want peace, and it's like selfish because your family's allowed to have problems, you know, and you're right. It's like learn to slow down and be quiet and listen, and walk them through the process. That's really our job. Our job is to guide our kids. It's guidance.
Yeah.
Taking that work hat off when you enter the door
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
been tough sometimes,
That's
right?
hard.
Yeah.
We all wear silver hats, but taking the biggest hat, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12-hour days,
Yeah.
you've got to remove that hat when you walk into that front door
Yeah.
and face whatever it is that's coming to you.
That's right.
When this is all over, let's don't get real morbid here, but when your life is done, what do you want your kids to say about you?
I was able to learn, you know, and I was able to evolve. They would do the same thing because, like Brad said, you're not going to be perfect out the gate.
Yeah.
And I made a lot of mistakes. I hope that they can see that I was humble enough to acknowledge them
Yeah.
and then be able to address them.
That's good. It's really good.
I think I'm more interested in what they're going to do instead of say. I think I'm more interested in how they're going to live their lives,
Yeah.
and I want to live a life that they want to emulate. If something I said brings some memory to them to hang on to, great. If that they can say, my dad always said this, or I can remember he did that, that's great. I'm happy. But I want them to just have an overall sense of, they don't want to try to be like me, they want to be like Jesus. That's my bigger goal in all this.
Yeah, that's good.
Honesty and integrity for me.
Yeah.
And I want my kids to see me pray out to God. I want to pray with my kids. I want them to do the same thing. But for me, I'm always trying to tackle that honesty and integrity. I feel like you open yourself up for so much more in life to come, for so much more good things to come your way with those two.
Yeah. That's great.
I would want them to say that he really loves us.
Yeah.
He values us. You know, through all the mistakes, through the good times and the bad times, through everything, that man really, really loved us. You know, that's the goal. That's really what it's all about. It's about compassion. And I'm learning more as I get older. You know, I mean, right now, my emotions are acting up. I'm getting emotional. And
Sorry, I like that.
Thank you. It's true. It's true. And it's important to me that my children know that I value and I care for them very much, because all kids don't get that. And it looks different with different dads.
Yeah.
You know, how we love is different. We all have different love languages, and we tend to love in our language, and we have to learn to love in theirs. And there's all this stuff we learn during the process. But I pray to God, they look back and they see the love of God through me in their lives. That's my hope.
It's awesome.
Good place to end. Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's fantastic.
You bet.